Can you... You're taking over a bit.
I'm sorry.
You're taking over a bit.
I'll stop now. I'll stop.
Will you?
You're in charge.
Are we?
Are we?
Are we ever? Welcome to Gabble Sisters. Join us on our walking tour of every Disney animated feature, taking in the history, psychology, and music of a randomly selected film each episode. Think Goose. Forward, march. Hello, Bronwen.
Hello, Megan.
We're here for a bonus recording off the back of our Hercules episode.
Yes.
And we have a special guest with us today.
Yes, we do.
Would you like to introduce our special guest, Bronwen?
No. Can you please introduce yourself for the record?
Hello.
Who are you?
I'm the father of...
The father
of Megan and Bronwen.
Hello.
Hello.
It's nice to have you here.
Well, thank you. Am I the first guest?
You are the first guest.
That's quite a privilege.
Yeah.
And your listeners will be interested to know that I am honouring that by wearing my full-length apprentice sorcerer's uniform here, with full-length cloak, full-length hat and wand. I'm ready for this.
Yes. We are seeing that in front of us right now. So, Daddy, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Excellent. Would you like to introduce yourself to the listeners, say a bit about yourself and anything about Disney that you'd like to tell people?
Well, I guess most importantly, I'm your father.
Yes.
So obey me.
Oh.
No.
No.
The hierarchy has changed. I thought I was in charge as the older sister, but no.
Then,
I never thought I was in charge.
in terms of myself, I've spent my life being a research scientist. I'm sure your mother would have liked me to be something more useful, like a plumber or a plasterer or something. It's the only thing I know how to do. And Disney, I was trying to think what Disney film was my first memory, and it all gets a bit mixed up and vague. I think it was The Jungle Book.
Oh.
It might have been Dumbo, but I think most likely the Jungle Book. And I've sort of enjoyed Disney ever since.
What is your favourite Disney film currently?
Oh, crikey, what is my favourite Disney film? So Lion King is obviously a spectacular one with music, but I think it might be driven by villains.
Appropriately for our conversation today.
And which film has the greatest villain? There can only be one. I mean, there are plenty of great Disney villains. Remembering the Jungle Book, I enjoyed Shere Khan. But I think there's one Disney villain that stands above, head and shoulders above every other Disney villain. And she's just superb.
Oh, she.
Yes.
Excellent.
And if she doesn't scare you, no evil thing will.
Who could we be talking about here?
So I think because of Cruella de Vil, 101 Dalmatians might be my favourite. And I would have loved to have been around the table at Disney when they were sort of talking about what film should we do for children next. And somebody says, well, how about this really evil woman who wants to kidnap and kill, presumably it's 99 puppies and the two parents, to make into a fur coat. I think that must have just been such a glorious moment where they all said, what a fantastic, brilliant idea. This is so suitable for children, and went ahead with it. So, yeah, perhaps 101 Dalmatians because of Cruella de Vil.
Oh, very good. Yeah, I'm a big fan of 101 Dalmatians.
What's your favourite then, Bronwyn?
Encanto.
I don't even know that one. I don't think that's a proper one. Megan?
The Lion King.
The Lion King. The Lion King's very good.
And to bring us round to the conversation we're having today, you wanted to chat to us about Hades.
I did.
Because Hades is one of your favourites.
I am Team Hades. I like Hades. I relate to Hades. And so I'd like to come and defend Hades a little.
Okay.
How do you relate to Hades?
Oh, the psychology session begins.
Of course.
Well, I think Hades is dealing with the real world as it is, isn't it? You know, he has to deal with all sort of... Well, we'll come on to what Zeus did to him later. But let's start... I'd like to start just by saying Hercules... We're ignoring all the factual inaccuracies, aren't we, at this point? That
we've done that.
We're moving on.
So, Hercules or Heracles, he was no hero in that. First of all, he was just born with his super strength. He didn't do anything to deserve it. It was just entirely privilege. And then everything he did after that was to get back to Olympus. He didn't want to save the world from evil things and save damsels in distress for his own benefit. He wanted to get back to Olympus. And at one point, he'd done all this sort of saving people from monsters or whatever, realised he wasn't getting back to Olympus. I think Zeus at that point in the film had told him, no, you can't come back yet. So he went to Phil and said, I'm not doing this anymore. So when the reward of Olympus was taken away, he didn't want to do anything good. And then finally it was just all driven by lust. And it wasn't for his own... It wasn't trying to just make the world a better place. So Hercules is no hero, I don't think.
Right. Okay.
So that's a hot take. As James would say if he was here, it's a theory.
Yes. So Hades.
Well, we're not allowed to challenge your idea of Hercules.
Well, you can, but I think I've laid out factual evidence to support it.
I think one of the things we talked about in the main episode was the difference between the ancient Greek idea of heroism and the modern day, particularly 90s idea of heroism. And what the film does, Hercules' arc, is that he's going for this ancient Greek idea of heroism, and that's not good enough. When he goes to Zeus in the temple and Zeus says, no, you're not a true hero yet. And then we have him going on to save Meg, even though it doesn't benefit himself.
No, but he wants a relationship with Meg, doesn't he? It's not like he's going to save some old hag somewhere that he doesn't like at all. He saves the object of his lust and
He's in
fascination.
love with her. That's what we're presented with.
Well, in that
love,
case,
not
so
lust.
He is saving the object of his love then. He's not doing it selflessly. He's doing it because he's got this particular attachment with her, wants to be with her, and so will save her.
Well, no, because he sacrifices himself. He's willing to sacrifice himself. He throws himself into the pool of dead people.
Yes.
And you see him going towards his death, and the fate's getting ready to snip his life force.
Yes.
And he's only made immortal at the last moment because he was willing to give up his life for Meg, so he wouldn't be with her anymore.
Well, death isn't such a bad thing, is it, there? Or perhaps anywhere, in that he would have been dead with Meg. So I think he was still doing it selfishly.
I mean, the way that death is presented is not very fun. It's just a whole load of ghost people swirling in a pool of
It is.
Yeah, it's not
distress.
very romantic.
No.
And this comes back to perhaps why Hades is why he is. Mm-hmm. So, I've done some research because I know you guys like.
It's always a great sign when someone says I've done my own research.
I've done. So let's go back to the beginning of what happens with Hades. So we've got Kronos, who is married to Rhea.
Okay, so just to be clear, we are going back to the Greek myth now,
We're going back to the Greek
which
myth.
is quite removed from the film.
we might be moving in and out of myth and Disney. They're
Interesting.
both sort of two different versions of the truth, perhaps.
Well, yes, we spoke about that. Yes.
So Kronos and Rhea, they first of all have a daughter, Hestia. Now Kronos has been told in a prophecy that one of his children will overthrow him, which he doesn't like the idea of that. So the way he thinks, the way I'll deal with this is that he swallows Hestia whole. So Rhea doesn't seem overly put off by this type of behaviour, and they have another child, another daughter, Demeter, and he does the same, swallows her. Now, Rhea obviously is not very quick on the uptake, because then that happens to the third daughter, Hera. Then Hades is the first son, and he's swallowed whole by Kronos. Then Poseidon is born, so this is the second son, fifth child, and Kronos swallows him. It's taken 5 children for Rhea to work out there's a pattern developing here. And the youngest child is Zeus. She wraps a stone in swaddling clothes, hides Zeus, gives Kronos a stone, who can't appear to tell the difference between a stone and a baby, and Kronos swallows the stone, thinking he swallowed Zeus. Zeus is then free to sort of grow up healthy away from Kronos, while all the other children are just kind of in Kronos' belly, it seems. Then later, Zeus is the one that challenges Kronos and forces a regurgitation or a sort of rebirth of the five children, and they come out in the opposite order in which they went in. So it was last in, first out, which means Hades then comes out sort of as the youngest son. He's had his role reversed with Zeus. Now, this isn't going to go down well, is it? We've got examples where if you usurp the eldest in the Bible, it doesn't work out. So Cain and Abel. So, Cain was born first, Abel second. God says, actually, you know what? I rather prefer what Abel's doing to you, Cain. So Cain kills Abel. Jacob and Esau, Isaac and Ishmael, reversals, and then it always goes a bit wrong. And it's a bit like, imagine if I came along and said, Megan, you're no longer the eldest daughter.
What? It's part of my identity.
Bronwyn is now going to be the eldest daughter.
Thank you.
And she's going to start giving you commands what to do.
No.
So Zeus, by this point, has sort of just kind of adopted, well, I'm in charge now, even though he's younger than Hades, just because Rhea saved him but not Hades. So that's, I think, the first thing we can look at to say Hades is a product of the things that have happened to him.
In the myth.
In the myth. The 3 brothers divide up the world, and Zeus, being the one in charge, takes the best thing. So he takes the land, he takes Mount Olympus, where they're always having parties, whatnot. Poseidon gets the sea. Hades gets the underworld. So first of all, he's usurped by his brother, and then he's sent underground to look after all these miserable dead people.
Well, they drew a lottery, didn't they, for the sea and the underworld.
Are we talking myth or Disney?
I'm talking myth.
Right. So at this point, we might go into the Disney reality, since it is the Disney Hades I'm mostly going to defend. So, Hades, when they're having the party at the beginning, when Hercules has been born, Hades comes up and is the coolest one there with all of his blue flaming
lots of them are pretty cool.
Outfit, and not as cool as Hades. Hades absolutely coolest. And then, Zeus says, oh, why don't you come and sort of join us? And Hades says, well, unlike you guys lounging about up here, I regrettably have a full-time gig that you, Zeus, by the way, charitably bestowed on me. So Zeus is the one that sent Hades underground to look after dead people. So 2 things here, I think. One is, well, he's sent underground. And underground is a bit miserable. I've done some research on that, which we'll come back to.
We'll come back to that.
Wow, you went deep in your research.
And the second thing is, he's also excluded. He didn't choose to be sent underground. And so there's this sort of social exclusion. I wondered, first of all, was it being sent underground and spending the whole time with all the dead that was upsetting him? And so that led me on to some research about people going down caves for a while to live. And the big experiments were Michel Siffre in 1960s and 1970s, and he ended up spending 6 months down in a cave with no light-dark cycles available to him.
Oh, was this the one where they were testing circadian rhythms?
It was. That was the thing.
Okay. Yeah.
So, and what they found, so circadian rhythms are the natural biological rhythms that are going on in the body, and there are various ones. The obvious one is the sleep-wake cycle, but there's also temperature cycles that go up and down. There's chemical cycles that change throughout the day. And he found it sort of disrupted the circadian rhythms, and they all get out of sync with each other to begin with. Then eventually they resynchronize, but not necessarily back to 24 hours. He found it all quite distressing being underground. There's a bit of a sad story. So they're down in a cave. There were mice around. So he laid traps for the mice so they didn't eat his food or gnaw at him in the night. But there was one mouse he befriended. And
was it Mickey?
I hope not, considering how this story is going to end up.
Oh no!
And he was giving the mouse crumbs of food to eat. So the mouse was his. He also had no social contact with anybody up at the top. So the mouse was his only social contact. And then the mouse accidentally got caught in one of the traps he'd set for mice. So it's kind of like his own fault. But his friend mouse died, and that was towards the end. And he said it was the most distressed he's ever felt in his life, and he was suicidal. So the isolation followed by some trauma that we normally cope with. We'd be a bit upset, but then think, actually, I can get another mice from the pet shop tomorrow, it's all right. Then sort of really upset him. And so there's this thing about mood. The BBC, interestingly, in I think 2001 repeated the experiment, or they sent 15 people down a cave for 40 days, but that was a bit different because they asked for volunteers. And so you kind of get people who I quite like the idea of going underground and away from the world. And for them, 2/3 of them at the end said, please can we stay a bit longer.
Oh wow. Oh my goodness.
So
weird.
Isolation by itself, we know, or we'll probably know a lot more, isn't necessarily bad if it's chosen and if it's what people want to do.
Yes.
Hades didn't choose to be isolated. He was excluded. So that brings me on to my second bit of research. Social exclusion and aggressive behaviour, like trying to overthrow your father. Oh no, your brother, sorry. So this is a paper, If You Can't Join Them, Beat Them, Effects of Social Exclusion on Aggressive Behaviour. And it was published in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology in the year 2001.
So it's a little bit old, 25 years old.
Well, 2001 doesn't seem old to me.
It's 25 years ago.
I've been working quite a long time by then.
Oh, it was just yesterday, it's fine.
That's probably about when I peaked, and it's been downhill ever since. So they were looking primarily sort of at why people in America might go in and shoot people in schools. So pretty dry. And it had been noticed that a lot of these people were sort of socially excluded people. They were isolated. They were very angry with the world. And then the question is, what causes what? Because obviously if you are an angry, antisocial person, people don't really want to know you. So it could be that being angry causes exclusion. But they wanted to look, could exclusion cause anger? So they did this experiment. I should say, I'm not a psychologist. I've never studied psychology. I have no authority and experience to speak about this at all, but that's never stopped me before.
That's the most humble we've ever heard you.
I know how to read a paper. They're delightfully interesting, just what psychologists will do to other people. So these people, first of all, they got a group of psychology students and said, you have to be part of this study to do your course.
Again, that's showing the age of this paper. They wouldn't be allowed to do that now.
Oh, right, yeah.
They're not allowed to say, you must do this for your course. That's not ethical.
They said they must. I kind of quite like that because it takes away the volunteer bias that you can get.
Yes.
Forcing people into an experiment, I think, helps reduce some confounding problems in these
bring up other problems, potentially.
Yes. So anyway, So the first thing they did with these students is give them a personality test. And it was a broad-ranging personality test.
Which one was it?
It doesn't say, actually, in the methodology. That I don't think. Probably designed for this, because they give them then some honest feedback about where they believe this person is on the introvert and extrovert spectrum. And that builds some trust and credibility in what they've done. But then they are randomly assigned some feedback on how well they're going to fit in with society longer term. So some people, they give a nice affirming statement. They say, you're the type who has rewarding relationships throughout life. You're likely to have a long and stable marriage and have friendships that will last into your later years. The odds are that you'll always have friends and people who care about you.
That's nice.
It is nice.
Yeah.
But to another half of students who, think they're just part of a personality test experiment, they say, you're the type who will end up alone later in life. You may have friends and relationships now, but by your mid-20s, most of these will have drifted away. You may even marry or have several marriages, but these are likely to be short-lived and not continue into your 30s. Relationships don't last, and when you're past the age where people are constantly forming new relationships, the odds are you'll end up being alone more and more.
That's so mean.
It is, isn't it? So you've got this, half of the group are being given, affirming things about how well they fit into society, and half are saying, no, nobody's going to like you, you're going to be excluded. They're then asked to write an essay that they say is, they're going to mark each other's essays. Some people are given good feedback and some people are given bad feedback. They're told it's this other student who's given you feedback, and the feedback might be a very good essay, or it might be one of the worst essays I've ever read. So we've got this, first of all they're told you're going to be in society or you're not, then they're given some nasty or good feedback.
So that
on
feedback,
an essay.
I'm assuming that was sort of both groups received both feedback.
They did at this point, yes.
Right, yes. So to be able to cross and analyse the response to that feedback.
Yes.
Yes.
Then they're asked to help assess the person who gave them feedback on their essay. In particular, for some roles within the department that are highly sought after, they're going to give you useful experience for getting a career later in life. So it's your chance to sort of either be neutral about assessing the other person, or your chance to give them a bit of a kicking. And what they found is, of those that had negative feedback in the essay, so all of these have been told your essay is not very good. But now we split it into people who were told they're part of society or going to be part of society and those that aren't. The ones that were going to be part of society scored the other person twice as highly as those that, when they'd been told previously that they weren't going to be part of society. So they've kicked out, they've got their revenge in. They've all had negative feedback, but whether they feel part of society or not has changed their response to that. And then there's various control groups. If they'd had positive feedback, that actually overcame being told you're not part of society. So it's this combination of feeling excluded and then having a kick to your ego together is rather bad. And they followed up with some other experiments, such as, rather than a psychology questionnaire telling them whether they were likely to have friends or not, they were all asked to mingle in groups of 6 and then identify 2 people they'd like to do a shared task with. And so they all did that. They were then told, they were split into 2 groups, and whatever they'd said about other people didn't matter at all. They were just randomised to being told, everybody wants to work with you, or nobody wants to work with you.
I'm so glad this wasn't me.
I think I would have worked out as a psychology student that this was a test.
Well, so they did exclude, I wondered about that. They did say they actually excluded some students because they'd expressed some cynicism about what was going on. The quite fun thing was, though, after they were told nobody wants to work with you or somebody's going to work with you, they played a game with other people, and sometimes it could be a game with people they know is given negative or given negative feedback.
It's quite complicated studies
in another essay. Yes. Sometimes they were playing a game they were told with somebody they'd never met before. Before the game starts, they can choose the level of pain they inflict on the opponent in the game should the opponent lose. Now, the pain is noise. It's white noise through headphones, and they can adjust the volume and the duration. And those that had been told nobody wants to be your friend and work with you gave twice the volume and twice the duration of painful noise to their opponents, whether they were part of a group that had given negative feedback or whether they were completely neutral who they didn't know before. So this antagonistic, violent behaviour extends not only to people who excluded them, but just to the average Joe public out there.
Right.
That's my research. So, Hades, isolated in a cave, circadian rhythms all over the place, probably for a while, and it's cold and damp.
I mean, he is a god.
Yes.
So he might not have a circadian rhythm in the way that we understand a circadian rhythm.
That's true, yes. Yeah, they didn't study gods in the experiments.
Unfortunately, there's very little psychological research on gods. Psychologists don't generally believe gods exist.
In the field.
Yes.
But then he's been excluded by Zeus, he's been sent away, and so not surprisingly, he's going to kick back against the system that's excluded him. So I think Hades is living in this sort of real world of knocks in life and sometimes feeling included, sometimes not feeling included. He's a much more real character, I think, than Hercules, who's just out for himself anyway, as we've already established and all agreed.
Have we? Have we all agreed on that?
So I think the thing that brings what I brought to the podcast and what you brought to the podcast is about this film is about our acceptance and relationship with our peers.
Yes.
So you've spoken about Hades and Hades' relationship specifically with his brother, and brought in research around the impact of being rejected by others can do. I interestingly did the same thing around Hercules, and I looked at it from a neurodiversity perspective and the impact of being neurodiverse in a neurotypical society and the impact that has on self-esteem, on relationships, all those sorts of things. I fundamentally disagree with your view that Hercules is just doing this for lust, love. He's doing this to be accepted by society, because that is what effectively we're always all trying to do. Humans are social creatures, and if we bring in Hades here as a humanoid type thing, we're all looking to be in a group because evolutionary speaking it makes sense. We're group animals, we want to be in a group because groups keep us safe. So I agree with you to a certain extent that that's what this film was about, and the impact of not fitting in. So I think what we're saying mirrors each other quite interestingly.
I think with Hercules, he was told what he needed to do to get back into the group, really, wasn't he? That Zeus told him he had to prove himself or whatever. Hades is not given any way back into the group. They're all partying up on Mount Olympus. They've sent him down to look after the dead. I do think it's a shame Disney didn't introduce Cerberus, because of course in the original Greek...
They do.
Did I miss it?
Yes. Cerberus appears twice.
Oh.
So when you first see Hades go down into the underworld, he throws a slab of meat at Cerberus.
Right.
And as then later on, when Hercules goes down to save Meg, he rides in on Cerberus, and that was actually the 12th labour of Hercules. So.
Right. Thank you for the correction.
No, that's fine. I was going to say he's not on his own down there. He's got a dog.
He's got a dog,
and he's got
pain and panic. That's another thing you can kind of be sympathetic to, in that pain and panic are rubbish.
Oh,
they don't do the tasks given
panic
to them, and they don't admit it to Hades.
They are bad minions.
So he can't then fix the problem of trying to kill Hercules because they've messed up and they haven't done it properly.
We see on the count that there are a lot of people in the underworld with him. It's 5 with 10 zeros afterwards.
Yes.
A lot of people down there.
They're kind of dead people floating around. They're not really his sort of peer acceptance or whatever. Yeah. Yes.
I thought there was an interesting line in what the Greek chorus are singing at that moment, the Muses. They sing, "He ran the underworld, but thought the dead were dull and uncouth."
Oh, there you are.
So,
yes.
He's above them.
He is. Well, he is a god and he's alive. They're dead. Yes.
So putting on your honorary psychologist hat.
Yes, I'm now I've read one psychology paper. I am now an expert.
Having read that paper and your understanding of Hades, what do you think needs to happen for Hades? Like, what should have happened to give Hades justice?
Well, maybe a sort of timeshare of having to look after the dead. So sometimes Zeus would go down and do it, and sometimes Poseidon. So, yes.
That does seem fair. Putting one person in charge of that does seem quite...
You're going to end up a bit embittered, aren't you?
Yeah.
I think this is the only motivation that the film gives him, really. If we ignore all of the Greek myth stuff that the film ignored, then you just see Hades being resentful of the fact that he has a job to do, and none of the others have a job.
No, they're just enjoying themselves.
He does have the best hair, though.
He does have the best hair. There's no doubt he has the best hair. And when this blue thing, and then when he's angry, it all goes red and flames across all of him.
Like the devil.
Yeah.
Like the devil.
And I do agree with you that we see him as isolated as well. I thought the beginning bit where he arrives on Olympus and everyone's up there partying for the birth of Hercules, it reminded me of the beginning of Sleeping Beauty, with Maleficent not being invited to the party.
Yes.
So she's been excluded as well. Yeah. And I imagine we'll find that this is a fairly common trait of Disney villains, that they have been excluded.
And it's a common trait of scientists, isn't it? We were never invited to the parties that all the art students were having. So we share that embittered exclusion from all the people having wild fun.
And actually, you make a really interesting comparison. It's not a very nice one, but in that paper the reason it's been written is to understand the mentality of school shooters. It does make sense, the idea that people aren't born school shooters. They go through experiences, and most of the time if you go into the person's life, it's many multiple layered experiences that come together, but it all comes down to the sense of like not being wanted anywhere, whether it's at home or at school or amongst peers. So it's actually a really important thing to talk about.
And it's probably a vicious cycle, isn't it?
Yes,
it's not one thing causing another. They feed on themselves as you get more antisocial. People don't want to be around
people
you.
School shooters don't just go have a bad experience and then go in and shoot. It becomes they have a bad experience, so they start rejecting their peers and going, oh, they suck, I don't want them anyway. And then this cycle continues, and they often have their own also complex mental health difficulties as well, in terms of low mood and anxiety and that sort of thing. So
this is quite a dark podcast, isn't it?
It does get dark.
Yeah, it does.
Well, that's the thing about Disney, is it has light and dark.
It does.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes.
Is there anything else you like about Hades other than the fact that he's relatable? What else draws you to him?
His hair.
Yeah. It's the hair, really. Yeah.
It is. Yes.
Do you like the voice performance? That has quite often been praised.
Yes, and I guess he has some good lines, doesn't he? And the villains often do.
I think it's quite interesting the way they choose to portray him as well, and I think it's to do with James Woods' performance. He has this sort of like salesman patter, which is kind of quite an odd choice, but I think it works really well, and it's very funny.
Yes.
But also, it's just made me think as well, I was thinking about some of his lines, something I talked about on the podcast, is Hades also doesn't really want to fit in. He says to Hercules, when Hercules has agreed to give up his strength in order to save Meg, he says, now you're just like everyone else, and isn't that just peachy?
So
he doesn't want to be like everybody else.
No.
But he also doesn't want to run the underworld.
No.
Which I think is fair.
His aspiration is to rule everything.
Yeah, yes.
That's a fair aspiration, I think. You can understand him not wanting to be like everybody else. If the everybody else, or the sort of people have excluded him, why would he want to be like somebody who's excluded him? So he needs some good friends somewhere.
So in the Greek myth, he does end up having a wife.
Does he?
Persephone.
Oh, yes.
He does steal her.
Yes, she's rather forced there against her will, isn't she?
Yes, and she has to stay there for 6 months of the year. So that's when it's winter. Because she's like the goddess of flowers or something like that.
Right.
Okay.
And so when she comes back up to the surface, then we have spring.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I think Disney, they've been discussing creating a villains land for some time. I think at Walt Disney World.
Oh, yeah.
I think.
Yes, yeah.
Is that right?
Yes.
If you could give Hades anything in the land, it can be a show, it can be a ride, it could be a parade. What would you like to give Hades in
I think he deserves
Villains
a
World?
show. He's got the character for a show, really, I think, where he's the star. He's acknowledged for the great person that he is. And then he's free to sort of diss Hercules.
It's interesting that he doesn't get a villain song.
No.
Because lots of them do.
Yeah, they do.
But he doesn't get one.
No, he should have had a villain song.
He should have.
So we'll give him a show, and specifically we will give him a song.
Okay, well, I think no one has discussed Hades in such academic depth as we have.
Trying to understand Hades. Have sympathy, empathy with Hades.
Well, thank you very much for joining us.
You're very welcome.
I think what is classically said on these sorts of things is there anything you'd like to tell the listeners about where they can find you?
No.
No. Don't want to be found.
They can't find me. I shall be down a cave somewhere for 6 months.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll be one of the ones saying, can I stay down a little bit longer, please, miss?
As long as there are no people down there.
Oh, that's
you
true.
were down there with people the
down
whole
there
time.
with people. Yeah, that could be
Just
difficult.
a mouse.
Just a mouse. A nice, friendly mouse. Or a rat.
Shall we invite Daddy to join us on the way that we say goodbye on this
Yes.
podcast? Do you remember how we say goodbye on this podcast?
Oh, no, there's a test. No, I don't remember.
Okay, well, perhaps if we start off, you can join in.
Yes.
So to say goodbye, we always go... Very good.
Perfect.
Bye!
Bye!
This is not an official Disney podcast, and the views expressed are our own. Thanks for joining us on another stop on our walking tour through the Disney landscape. We look forward to seeing you next time. Until then, you can follow us at Gamble Sisters on Instagram. Be sure to subscribe and rate us wherever you listen to your podcast, and please recommend us to all your Disney pals. Toodly pip! Well, goodbye.
Do you want us to go, Bronwyn?
No, I'm just trying to find a way.
Well, shall we...
yeah.